We're going way back to check out Rising Zan on the PS1. I've always been interested in this one because if you look close enough, it gets brought up here and there. I feel like we've all seen the name at some point, right? Not a lot, but just enough. Especially how it's like DMC a bit. Just like you guys, I have no clue how true that is. Imagine though, if there's a game on the PS1 that's been the true start of the 3D action genre this entire time? Hey, only one way to find out. This is Combat Overview. Here we go over the general controls, the main mechanics, who or what we use them on, and then seeing how it all comes together. We got a one and only katana, called the Demon Slayer. Has a 3-hit combo, no delays, no directional attacks, no heavy attacks, very straightforward stuff. That's not all though, because we also have our revolver, better known as Johnny No More. Alright, it has unlimited ammo, so you don't have to worry about resources, and there's no reloading either. But there are some special ammo pickups that do run out. But yeah, it's a great way to hit those far off targets, obviously, but it doesn't do too much damage where it takes over the game. Plus it locks you in place, and grounded enemies tend to block this after a bit. So it's not a tool to hit anything out of reach, but it has its weaknesses, which is a good thing. Even though there's no enders, you do have this one unique combo by alternating between the two. It has a certain timing to it that you just need to get the feel for, but it's pretty powerful if you do. Sad to say, but there's no juggles or any air combat, but we got this dive kick. Didn't use it much, but needed here. Onto defenses, we can guard, you can't move, only protects your front, there's a bit of chip damage, and drains a bit of your meter as you hold it. But that's more than fine because we have guard cancels. Yeah, it's a solid block. Didn't use them much against regular enemies, but bosses? Oh yeah, it's more useful than you might think. Second thing is though, guarding cancels your lock on. Bit cumbersome, but you get used to it. Okay, might want to sit down for this one because if you double tap forward, then guard, you counter. Yeah, you can even reflect projectiles with this. It's a bit tricky though because it's not just a single press of a button like Kingdom Hearts 1, right? It takes a lot more setup because of those extra inputs, but it makes it that much more rewarding in a way. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't wonky at times. This is a 25-year-old game, so there's some rough edges for sure. Okay, you can even parry melee attacks with this too. Not just basic enemies, but bosses too. Yeah, this is pretty wild. Never would have expected this here at all. It's pretty cool it is. And doesn't this counter seem awfully familiar to another game with the parry? Makes you wonder. So, I think we're done here. No, we got one more option left, and that's side steps. Now you can only move left or right, not back and forth like Onimusha would let you. So yeah, we have some footwork, but not fancy footwork. But it's a strong start. It's more useful than Death by Degrees side steps, I can tell you that much. And that's because it cancels your attacks too, sidestepping a reaction, which definitely comes in handy at times. Looking at the HUD, on the left we have our health, and the blue meter on the right is our spirit. Refills on its own over time, but yeah, we need it to use specials, which have full life frames. And to pull these off, it's like doing specials in Pro Skater basically. Left-right attack, or down-up attack, forward-forward attack, and so on. So yeah, we got our stinger to close the distance. Okay, that's pretty cool. A short-range spin to crowd control. This rising multi-hit attack, which reminds me a bit of Virgil's lunar phase. And this projectile that can pierce through a row of enemies. If they're surrounding you in a line, in the air, or far away, you have options for those different situations. We actually have a special for our gun too. Just the one, but it lets you spam the hammer doing some rapid fire shots. It drains spirit extremely fast, locks you in place, and has no iframes. It won't trivialize the game, because there's some solid risk reward for using this. Now top left we have our hero meter. It maxes out at 3 stocked bars, but it fills with each enemy you take out, for every hostage saved, and for getting through an all-button event. Think of it like Beautiful Joe. It resets every mission, but doing all the extra platforming, exploration, collecting, and so on, it'll go to increase your VFX bar for that stage. Similar idea here. By doing the extra objectives, you'll fill up your hero gauge for that stage. Pretty cool. So at the cost of a stocked meter, you go into hustle time. It's this powered up state. Get iframes on activation, you don't get hyper armor or heal over time, but you do hit harder, attack a lot faster, run a lot faster, and your katana doubles in length. You can even toss out unlimited specials. It lasts for a limited time, shown by the dynamite, If you have a lot of meter, you can press triangle a few times to use more than one bar of your hero meter to increase the timer. There's no upgrades for health or meter, no new moves either. You start with everything you need, and the only health, meter, and power up pickups you need are in the stages. It's all up to you to use those options the best you can, so it's very arcadey in that way. When it comes to enemies, strongmen are the basic grunts. And slice them down with ease since they're very passive and only attack if you literally stand still for a few seconds. The ninjas. There's a few recolors, but they have different attacks. The blue ones like to backflip a lot and teleport. I just use a stinger to track them down. These green ones will do a noticeable overhead attack, so either block, sidestep, special to iframe through it, or you can even just block their combo and punish them afterwards. There's one or two more of them, but they're easily overwhelmed with specials pretty easy if you're familiar with the patterns enough. Also, don't be surprised if you get God Hand vibes from this first stage. It's not just your character who's a bit silly, but so are these enemies. But alright, this guy who puts up his arm before spitting out fire, just sidestep to get a few hits in or special through it. One with a cannon for an arm. Similar to Sekiro, they'll kneel before they fire away. You can reflect it, sidestep or iframe through it to punish them that way too. These flying enemies. I'll shoot them, but once they land, they'll zoom towards you. There's a few more enemies, but they have solid patterns that make them feel different enough to fight. The first boss is pretty simple. He'll send out explosive barrels for you to avoid, you just gotta shoot him down. But if you picked up the rocket ammo from outside the fight, you can get him out of this phase real quick. Then he'll do these spins that you gotta avoid until he's dizzy, leaving himself open. Very simple. The sumo wrestler. Just gotta run circles around him, because eventually they'll attack with one of their very linear moves. So you'll just bait it out and then attack their sides or get behind them. The Shogun. He likes to teleport quite a few times, but he has some noticeable moves. Sometimes he'll toss in this forward lunge attack. You know it's showing up because this white glare will appear before that happens. You can jump out of the way or try your best to react in time with the special to avoid it that way too. Because if you get hit, he'll put an explosive on you with the timer. If you let the timer go to 0, you'll take a massive amount of damage. If you see him stab the floor, jump over that shockwave that follows. Yeah, usually he just tosses in this 3-hit combo that you can easily block. After that combo, or any of his options really, he has enough room to punish him with a few hits right after. But don't want to mash because you still want to be able to react in time for his other options. The Geisha. She's pretty straightforward, and that's because she's on loop, repeating the same 3 attacks in the same order. First are these fans that are creating this fire circle, so you can just run forward and stay safe in the middle. Next, you'll fire off tracking shots. You can guard these no problem, or just run away. And finally, this rotating beam. You can play helicopter with it and jump over until she's done, or toss him some specials too. There's also quite a few mini bosses, like this guy with an axe, which you can sidestep before Onimusha, right? Or even parry it too. Oh, when you fight 2 of them at once, they like to do this runaway charging swap in attack. So if you see one turn around and run away, be ready to use your specials to iframe through it. There's also this whole train fight. Yeah, so we're kind of getting in some classic Konami territory with this sort of stuff, which is pretty cool to see. Another one who will drop bells on you shown by the shadow, so be ready to sidestep, or just stay on the move. If you see their platform revving up, they'll charge you soon after. If they close in their arms, to shoot out saw blades for you to jump over. There's other one who either push or pull you to either send you into electric walls behind you, or into them doing some contact damage, all while jumping over orbs. There's a few more mini bosses, and a lot of them are in the second to last stage because it's a legit boss rush level, which I liked a lot. One of them even tries to outright replace you as the leading role. Time to find out who's the real Zan. Then the Kabuki who will swing their hair, either sending up spikes from beneath you or these fireballs. You just gotta destroy the jumps to the sides and it opens them up. And of course, we have a rival fight.
Oh, you're still alive.
Shut up, sissy!
For the first phase, I try to stay close, and once I see movement, I'll do lunar phase. Try not to mash too much because just like you can sidestep. Or you can wait for them to do their basic combo, block it, and punish him afterwards. Also, if he jumps back, he always tosses out these blade beams. So keep an eye out for that. Phase 2, he puts on this armor. More or less the same stuff, but with a few tweaks. Mainly, he tosses in some unblockable attacks, and he actually parries you now too. So now you really don't want to mash or be too defensive. So what I did is, I'll stay kind of close and circle around him. I'm trying to bait out a combo of his, but if it doesn't bite, then I'll just stinger doing some solid damage. And again, he'll jump back before doing these unblockable projectiles now, to jump away. And after that, he always does a tracking jump attack. No matter where you are in the room, it'll reach you. So I'll just iframe through it with the special and then punish him with the combo afterwards. And for the final boss, start hustle and brute force it. You can block their attacks very easily if you want. With hustle time, you'll just tear through that health. Phase 2, he either likes to hop on the ceiling to drop puddles that damage you, or they'll spit on their back bouncing from wall to wall, or they'll just slowly walk about. So since they're usually far away from you in this phase, I'll start up hustle time, and with that unlimited meter we have, I'll just spam the hammer to do consistent, solid damage. But yeah, that's the final boss, and it's pretty easy. Now, after you defeat a boss, you gotta mash to build up a timer so you can then land as many attacks on the boss for this over-the-top finish. It reminded me of Mad World, or even Rising Revengeance. Very interesting how similar it is. Now, triple S ratings are pretty cool in DMC, you know, not too bad for the highest grade. But I think Rising Zan did it best.
Sexy.
Yeah, you read that right. There's also post-mission scoring report cards that have some pretty funny names too. And that's Rising Zan Samurai Gunman. This game kept me second guessing every step of the way. So right when I started the game, I thought, okay, they better be a gunshot sound effect somewhere on this menu. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And then they slice the menu in half too, right after. Man, that's the good stuff. Honestly, the presentation in general is pretty good. Right at the start, there's this whole anime-like intro song. Our guy Zan here gets his own theme song to himself. Not only that, but there's this sort of transition effect at the end of each mission, or impacts as they're called here, which is pretty hype. Also, he has intro quips for each mission too.
Let's rock!
Yeah, the wild amount of character doesn't stop there because even the basic enemies to bosses are given the same amount of personality. Doing some God Hand silliness before God Hand was a thing. Yeah, I'm thinking this game needs to be remembered and given some props in our little circle. It has a stinger, Virgil's Luna phase, side steps, ratings after each mission, and a 3D action game. These sort of absurd QTEs that Platinum would be known for years later. Like you're using your katana to drill through fire. I'm telling you, these QTEs are pretty legendary. Also, after you beat the game, you unlock hard mode, but a whole extra character too. Before there was Kaida and Onimusha, we had Sapphire. Cool thing is, she's not limited to certain parts in the story. She's playable for the entire game. Okay, so with each difficulty you take down, you unlock more stuff like Serious Mode, which is heaven or hell before DMC did it. There's one to have unlimited hustle time, just like the super costumes in DMC. Oh, remember how God Hand would always make sure to never let the environment cover Jean? Well, Rising Zan did it here too. They just thought of it all, apparently. So yeah, this really is Proto Onimusha, Proto DMC, Proto Clover Studios, and Proto Platinum games. Rising Zan is basically the blueprint for what's to come in our little genre. Who's to say if they played this and took a lot of inspiration from it? But either way, Rising Zan had the right energy since day zero, bringing that hyper-stylized action against memorable enemies in this off-kilter world. And of course, with this gameplay being deeply rooted in this arcade-like setup for non-stop fun, always mixing it up to keep this experience fresh as much as possible from start to finish. Just makes it that much more approachable and replayable, learning its mechanics, enemies, bosses, routing, and so on. Again, you can tell it's a little rough to play. There isn't much for them to reference off of, after all. Kind of the first ones to do it, right? But man, the amount of charm this game has, you can't help but enjoy it every second that you're playing it. And now that I've played it myself, I can safely say it really was ahead of its time. And if you're a major fan of the 3D action genre, you owe it to yourself to try it out someday. And just out of principle, we're going to have to place it up here. It's no doubt a major pillar to everything we enjoy, making it an instant classic because of that. So, check it out.
My name isn't Johnny. It's the super ultra sexy hero, Zan.